Hi, it's Reverend Dale Brown again. Again, I'm the senior pastor of Community Church at Ocean Pines, but I'm also pastor of the cooperative parish that includes Bates and Trinity, along with Keegan and Karen, and we wish all of you a very Merry Christmas on this Christmas Day. I want to tell you a story. I love the stories of Christmas, and in fact, it's one of my very favorite things about Christmas. I wish I had about 18 of these sessions that I could do so I could tell you all these stories. Some like the best Christmas pageant ever, and some by Michael Lindvall called Good News from North Haven, and others, but stories that tell us about the real meaning of Christmas. And of course, the greatest story of all is the gift of Jesus in the Gospels of Luke and Matthew. But the story is told of a man, and I have to warn you ahead of time, I always get emotional when I tell this story. So bear with me. The story is told of a man who was a good man, a very fine man, a faithful, Christian, gentle, loving man who was known throughout his town as being a person of faith and a believer, and he was just a person that everybody loved. He prayed one day. He said, "Lord, I want one thing." And the Lord said, "Well, what is that one thing that you want?" And he says, "I'd like for you to visit me on Christmas Eve." And the Lord agreed. So the man did like we would do if we were receiving a special guest at our home. He cleaned the house. He got a new suit. He prepared a sumptuous and wonderful dinner. He did everything he could to be ready for the visit of Jesus to his house on that Christmas Eve, because after all, Jesus had promised to come. And very soon, as he was getting ready for Jesus coming, he sat down in a chair by the fire and just fell asleep. And while he was waiting, he heard a knock at the door. And that knock at the door was done by a little girl who was lost, separated from her mom, holding just her doll and squeezing that doll tight because she was so afraid. And she said, "Sir, I saw your lights on, and I thought I would ask you to help me to risk going to find my mom." And the man thought for a moment, and he considered the fact that he had said, "Well, Jesus promised that he would come today, and if I'm gone and he comes, what will he think of me?" But he looked at that little girl, and she had crocodile tears coming down her cheek, and you know how children are when they cry, they sort of catch their breath, and he said, "I have to help her." So he grabbed her by the hand, and they headed down to the town, and they found her mom, and her mom wanted him to stay with her and say, "You know, I appreciate so much you helping find my lost daughter," because she was frantically looking for her. And the man said, "No, I've got someone coming to the house, but Merry Christmas to you," and he went on home. He hung his heavy winter coat up in the closet, and he hoped and prayed that Jesus had not come while he was out. And he sat down in the chair, and very soon he heard another knock. And it was a man who lived on the streets, often intoxicated, known for his drinking of alcohol. And he said to the man, "What can I do for you?" He says, "Sir, I'm hungry, I'm cold, and I need a place to stay, and I noticed your lights, and I knew by your reputation that you were a good man, a kind man, a faithful man, and I thought I'd knock on your door to see if you would help me." Now, it was now after sunset, and he thought that he better be careful because Jesus might be coming. But he also couldn't look on this man who was cold and hungry and homeless, and he said, "Come on in." And so they went upstairs, and he got him cleaned all up and helped him look really good, and he gave him some of that food that he had prepared just for Jesus, and he gave him not just a winter coat, but his best winter coat. And he took him to a homeless shelter. And there he stayed. Now, when he arrived at the homeless shelter, many of the people there knew him because of his generosity and his kindness, and they all wanted him to stay. And he said, "No, I've got to go home because I've got a guest coming to my house tonight." And again, he hoped deep in his heart that he had not missed Jesus, who had promised to come on that Christmas Eve. And so he was home, and he settled back into the chair, and now it was late, and he was getting tired. And somewhere around 7 or 8 o'clock, he heard, and it was a Hispanic man saying, "Sir, we're traveling from one place to another, and we're going to see family, and I've had a car problem. Can you help me change a tire?" And he noticed that the car was filled with people, and interestingly enough, the man's name was Joseph, and his wife, who was traveling with him, was named Mary. And he thought of the irony of that reality, and he knew that if he went out and changed the tire, his new suit would get dirty. But he looked at the family, and he looked at the little children who were riding in the back seat of the car, and he couldn't refuse them. He was just that kind of man. And so he said yes, and he went out and he helped change the car tire, and he got dirty, and his shirt that had been once pristinely clean and his new tie had the grease and the dirt of tires on them. And he thought to himself, "This is a fine way to meet my Jesus." And he went back home and he sat in the chair, and after several hours he woke up. The sun had risen. It was peeking through the window, and he was so disappointed. He was disappointed because Jesus had promised to come, and he felt that Jesus had not kept his promise. So he knelt down in his usual place of prayer. And he said, "Lord, you promised to come to my house on Christmas Eve, and you didn't come." And he said, "I'm so disappointed. Why didn't you come?" To which Jesus said, "I did come. I came in the form of a little girl, lost and afraid, of a man cold, hungry, and with no place to live. In the form of a family of persons who weren't from your area, who you did not know, and yet each time I came, you helped, you served, you loved." And then Jesus said to him those words that we all want to hear at the end of our lives. Of course, for him this was not death, but we all want to hear them. "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." The real meaning of Christmas is not the gifts under the tree, even though they're beautiful and wonderful. It's not even the tree itself. But the real meaning of Christmas is that Christ has come to our world, come to our hearts, and because of that, we are different. We serve rather than seek to be served. We give rather than seek to obtain. We love rather than to be idolized. On this Christmas morning, Christmas Day, my hope and prayer for you and for all of us, for all the world, is peace. But even more than that is that we might know personally the love of Christ, which in my theology, my belief, is the only thing that truly changes us for all eternity. And so this baby born Emmanuel, God with us, God on our side, and Jesus, for he will save his people, may he enter into our hearts and lives this day and every day. Merry Christmas. God bless you. Amen.